What's going on, everybody? Welcome. It is the 2024 NBA Draft. We've got Tyler Rucker from No Ceilings joining us, Amit Mann and Bahareni here. As always, we've got the Toronto Raptors selecting Jacoby Walter out of Baylor with the 19th pick.
Hey,
It's done. Actually, the draft isn't done for the Raptors. They still have the second day 31st pick that they still got to take care of. But the first round is almost done here, and there have been a few surprises. But honestly, I won't lie to you. I was pretty surprised with Jacoby at 19. Just generally, I thought they were going to go a couple of different directions. From your perspective, Tyler, what are the Raptors getting in Jacoby Walter?
I think you're getting someone with a lot of upside, a lot of potential. There was a point this year coming out into the beginning of the college basketball season. We thought he could have been a top 5 pick. That was kind of the rumblings around the NBA was, hey, Jacoby's top 10, maybe top 5 if he finds his groove. And he was really, really explosive this year. He was a talented scorer. Just a little inconsistent, but it was some games where you'd look and be like, oh gosh, he's dangerous. He looks everything you want him to be for like a prototypical 2, just a wing in the NBA now. It's good size at 6'5.5", and he's got a great length. I think he's around 6'9", 6'10" wingspan, and a beautiful shot. I think there's just some areas of his game that need to be a little ironed out, but a lot of good potential for the 19th pick in this draft. I think it's a great value. It's something that could really be a nice piece for the Raptors moving forward.
And into Baylor, I mean, they love their defensive play. It's all about kind of their intensity. And the Raptors, historically, they've loved their Baylor guys. So while it's a bit surprising, Tristan Da Silva, I thought he could be the guy. I was hoping Bub would fall there, but obviously he did not. I see why they would go for a guard like this defensively. Can you talk about what he offers on that end currently?
Yeah, there's a lot of really good tools to work with. I mean, he's lengthy. He looks like he has. You're kind of waiting for that consistency, like defensively. I thought he was going to take a much bigger step on that side this year, but there's still some flashes where you're like, okay, there's something here to work with. There's something to develop, and I just think it's a good piece for the Raptors, especially after last year they got Grady Dick. Now you get kind of another shooter who can really light it up. I know Raptor fans might look at the percentages and be like, oof, but it's like, hey, Keontae George struggled in that offense last year. He looked pretty good for the Jazz as a rookie. I think Baylor likes to ask a lot of their scorers. And, Jacoby would have some games going all over the place, which probably hurt his defensive, consistency and conditioning. So there's some good flashes. If you go back to high school, he was very physical, very smart defender.
Yeah.
So I think it could be really good value for this Raptors team when you're just talking about, hey, we weren't expecting him down here, but now we might be having something special to work with.
What are some potential areas of growth? Because I think, especially when you're looking at the 19th pick in a draft like this, where you're banking sort of on high upside, you don't know, it's a flat draft, like everybody's saying, a weak draft, you want to call it. What are some areas where you think Jacoby is there needs that improvement to be there? And what do you think could be tangibly done to improve those things?
Yeah, I think a little bit of the creation, it's not that it's not there. I think just the consistency kind of wavered throughout the year. Like you watch him in the beginning of the year against Auburn, he looked like a top 3 pick. He looked unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um, and then it just kind of some inconsistencies. I think it's just kind of what I said before. I think it's a lot of, they're running him all over the place. He's having to kind of stay up with the conditioning, and they're making him an off-ball shooter. I'm intrigued with him going to a team like Toronto because I think they might make it a little simple early on. Like, hey, be a catch and shoot guy, pick your spots to kind of start out, get some confidence, and then keep adding to his game. I think Jacoby's been one of these names that everyone, draft evaluators too are like, this could be really nice value. Like there's potential here to look back and be like, oof, he was a redraft guy that we really are moving up. But just a consistency. And I think it's on both sides because it's a lot of flashes. And the flashes are very, very fun to get excited about, but you
Yeah.
just find yourself wanting a little more. And I think maybe not being the guy, like Scotty Barnes is going to be the guy. They're going to have plenty of pieces around. I think this is another good shooter to get around Scotty and continue to move forward.
And even with the energy he offers too, like he's an energy giver on both ends. And I think the Raptors, they value that. Scotty Barnes, Grady Dick. I think that's part of the ethos of this team going forward. Defensively, I see the natural fit, being able to guard multiple positions. Offensively, like the Raptors, they want to play 4 out, 4 out, 1 in, 5 out. That's kind of what they're hoping for. And I see this with this pull up shooting, the way he's able to move off screens. Like there's a really nice player there going forward if he's able to harness his quality.
Yeah, there's a really good talent there. That's kind of why a lot of us were so high on him at no ceilings even. I thought he was going to be a legit name that could be in that top 5 discussion. Just because when you go
Top
back and
five,
watch his
I
high
like
school
it.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
when you watch the high
So
school
that
stuff, there was
potential is
special
there.
stuff. It's there.
Right?
It's just, I think
There's our
that's why
quote. There's our quote.
yeah, there you go. It's there. I think he just slipped a little bit because teams were like, okay, it's there, but it's not there enough.
Yeah.
And it was at the freshman year. And that's why he's been so puzzling for a lot of evaluators, is because, I was a big fan of Keontae last year, and he was in that same system, same role. And I understand when the percentages struggle a little bit.
I was too.
Yeah, I get it. But I see some good upside for Jacoby, and I think a team like the Raptors can find that potential and unlock it. And putting another shooter with upside, size, and length around Scotty Barnes is another great idea. He was the name I was always looking at 19. I liked De Silva a lot there. I was wanting him to fall to you guys, and I thought Bub would have been interesting, but I thought Jacoby was the name I was constantly like, this could make a lot of sense just because of the upside, the potential to get some good return on your pick.
Can I ask a quick question here? And it's related to a statistical thing that I've noticed here for Jacoby. 42% on twos. He struggles to get to the rim or finish at the rim. Is that an area where you think he can tangibly grow, or is that just kind of what it is with a guy like Jacoby? Because
definitely can grow. He's got that frame that looks like muscular, and then I think it just needs to fill out even more. Like he's a little thinner. He weighed a little less than I thought he was going to be. I think it's good frame to start off with. He's just one of those guys we might look up in a couple of years and be like, oh, it's coming together now and everything's figured out. When it comes to attacking, he has some good crafty counters and on-ball stuff. I think it's just when he gets to that rim, that last step, he's trying to figure out what to do or how to finish. Some of it looks impressive, and some of them are really tough takes. It's just like I said, the flashes are like, oh my, like look at this beast. And then all of a sudden he has a game where he's 4 for 15 and you're like, okay, what happened to that guy that was back there? So if you can find a way to get more consistency, and that's why I was saying like maybe making it simple for him early on, and then making a building block. So like, let's get baby steps instead of trying to throw everything at you. I think that's probably what an organization like the Raptors is thinking.
Is he a guy who spends time in the G League year one?
It's tough because if I say yes, everyone's going to be like, oh, great. No, I think it's just because reps and working on it would be great. He also could be a guy that goes to summer league and the first game we're like, oh gosh, why did we overthink Jacoby? I don't know. I think he will be on the roster getting some minutes, some opportunity. It'll be interesting to see if he buys in like defensively to earn it right away, and because he can shoot, and he's one of those guys you're going to see him in an empty gym and you're going to be like, oof, he can light the net on fire.
Yeah.
He was one of those names. I was shocked he didn't have a better pre-draft process. It kind of seemed like the buzz didn't really heat up about him, and then you'd hear a couple places he looked good, and that's the fun part about the process is it only takes one team for you to have a good workout, and then they're going to love you. So I'm intrigued to see what he does with the Raptors.
Yeah, you look good in Toronto, I guess, during his workout. We
Yeah,
can
he
say
must have looked
that.
great.
Yeah. So he turns 20 this year in September, and we're talking 6'5", 6'4", 195 pounds. So he's a little bit light. And to your point, Tyler, with the Raptors, his role kind of similar to Grady Dick when he was with the rest of the, I guess, the first version of the Raptors with Pascal and OG and so forth, is that it's going to be a lot of like 1-2 dribbles, catch and shoot. It's going to be pretty simple. But I mean, like, I think it's fair to say that he could benefit from some more ball handling reps. And that's an area where he has to get a little bit stronger. The driving get a lot easier if he's able to contain the ball a little bit better, have a better touch around the rim. And ball handling does help with that. And even to that, I mean, 905 time, that's what you got to do down there. So I wouldn't mind if he spends some time down there. But obviously, the Raptors, they got a few things to figure out with their roster. It's nice to have Jacoby in the house, though. I think he's a seamless fit in a lot of ways with what they're trying to go for. Able to play a few positions, the wingspan, the energy. I like it. I mean, I don't mind it. There are some other guys, I really wanted. I was thinking Khalil Ware would have been great. I still not sure about their center depth, but hey, we got tomorrow still, so let's see what they do.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the way that we look at the draft currently, we're basing it off of our own impressions of these players, right? And
yeah, man.
that can change just as quickly as we're making up these opinions of these players. I think, Tyler, you made a great point about Summer League that, hey, he might have one of those moments that makes you reconsider where he might have fell. And with Jacoby and all these other wing types that are in these teens, it really does depend on their fit and how they're supposed to work in whatever system they are. And you think of Darko Rajakovic's system, this off-ball cutting that he likes to instill, how he's, the shooting is obviously a part of it, but just the athleticism that he could potentially show on that end. I'm intrigued by Jacoby's fit. I also am just curious to see what they do with their next pick. And so, looking forward to day 2. And it's tough too because we don't know exactly who's going to be there and whatnot, but who are some names that you're looking at for the Raptors with 31?
I'm really intrigued now because I think you got a good addition with Jacoby with the shooting potential and just the upside to be a nice weapon on the wing. I think Jonathan Mobo would be a name I'd probably keep out for them. He's kind of a old school big. He's a little undersized, but he's
Scotty Barnes' friend.
There you go. So we're connected some dots, but
that helps.
A name. Yeah, that helps a lot. He's very, very fun. You look at him and you're like, he's listed around 6'7.5", and you're like, ooh, for a forward big, that's a little undersized. 7'2" wingspan, and he's a late bloomer. He grew up his whole life. He was a point guard, had a massive growth spurt.
I love these stories. I love these stories. I was a point guard for so many years. All of a sudden, I shot up 12 inches, and now look at me. I can handle, I can shoot, all this fun stuff. I'm Wemby.
He looks like Fareed out there with playmaking ability. So it's just kind of you're like, whoa. Okay. And he was at San Francisco. A lot of teams like him. And I think he's just now it's that unique weapon that you can have in your rotation that's you can run the offense through, or, he's good on defense and hits the board. So I think that's a name to look out for. It's a good year to be picking where they are because there's going to be really good value all over the place. So I'm kind of excited to see how the rest of the draft pans out, because Toronto also might be like, hey, we like a guy, but we can go back a couple picks and even get him, or we weren't expecting this name to still be on the board. So it's going to be interesting. I think there's a lot of names like Kevin McCullough, if he was even on the board still, maybe just a versatile two-way guy. I think that point guard range might be reaching a little bit. So I'd probably want to see AJ Mitchell if they wanted a point guard. Makes a lot of sense there too. But I would say Mobo would be a really intriguing name for them.
How about Coach Tyler Rucker? What would Coach Tyler Rucker like? Is there someone that you're just a little bit higher on than other people, and then you're hoping that they make you look really good one day, maybe tomorrow?
Probably AJ Mitchell would be that guy for me. I've just been a big fan of kind of I loved his offense this year. I've loved the growth I've seen from him at Santa Barbara the last couple of years. And then he went to the combine and looked like a demon defensively. And it was kind of like whoa, where did this come from? And I think it was just the competitive spirit when he was playing in the scrimmages, and he looked really tough. And he's 6'5" with a good feel. So I think if he's in that second round, I think some team's gonna get a really good, intriguing piece to your backcourt that might have some fun upside. So that's just a guy that I'm a little bit higher on.
Outside of the Raptors, I have to ask you about one of the bigger trades, and as we hear the draft dingle, but one of the bigger trades of the night in Minnesota, going out and grabbing a top 10 pick and then drafting Rob Dillingham. What do you think of that fit? How do you think Dilly kind of works with the Minnesota system, or how he's supposed to fit there? And what do you think from Minnesota side? Like, was that worth it? Did it make sense for them to go out and get Rob Dillingham?
Yeah, I loved it. It was one of those days, we had kind of heard some rumblings that Minnesota was trying to go up for a guard, and Rob was not the name that we heard. So when all of a sudden that was announced, it was like, whoa, what in the world is going on? And I love it. Yeah, I love it for Rob. I think it's a fantastic fit for him because he is undersized a little bit. He's very skinny. He weighed around like 164 pounds at the combine, which is light. And now you have him with all of these defensive, lengthy weapons around him and some physicality. So you can bring him in to just be what he is, which is a microwave NBA jam scoring guy. And it's funny, the first year, I think it's the first year they were eligible to trade their pick after that Rudy Gobert trade. They basically got rid of it right away. So I love the gamble for Minnesota. I think you've got this nasty team that's on the rise, and now you're throwing a little bit of a curveball in the whole mix of someone that could take over a game and really give you a punch. He's very fun, talented player. I really liked it. So it's a very interesting swing. I was trying to figure out where Rob was going to land. It was kind of one of those you kept talking to people and they're like, he's going down a little bit. And I was like, who's going to take him? And then all of a sudden Minnesota makes that trade. You're like, okay, here we go. So I think it's a good fit for both.
And one more for you, or maybe S has more, I'm not sure. But moving to another bit of a surprising pick, it's with Zach Edey. And I think a lot of people felt like, the Raptors may have been a team that were interested, OKC, Sacramento, but he went to Memphis, and John Morant's already made it aware that he's aware of the trade of the draft pick, because he did post a video on his social feed. It's, if you recall, I believe it's the second Rush Hour movie where Chris Tucker encounters a very, very large man, and he can't see
I didn't
his
see
face
this
because he's over the top part of the door. He posted that already. That's on social. So Ja, I guess, is a fan of it, or at least he's aware of it. What are your thoughts on Zach? I guess there's the Grizzlies fit, but also Zach Edey in the NBA. Translation, how long could it take for him to be not someone that's a weakness on defense? At least that's what everyone's thinking. But yeah, I'll let you go.
I saw the video right before I was hopping on with you guys, and I couldn't stop laughing. It was like the best clip ever. I was like, is John Morant this funny? Like, this is hilarious. So it's funny that the two biggest, just like out of nowhere. Detroit taking Ron Holland was a bit of a surprise, but I actually liked it. Edey, after the Rob Dillingham trade, it was like, okay, everyone slow down a little bit. Let us catch our breath. I like the fit. I've been lower on Edey personally because I just thought it's got to be really specific fit-wise. And I thought, he's going to have to be this rotation guy early on that you're hoping figures it out and your system works. But, with Memphis, I had heard that they were potentially going to try to trade back and get him. And I think at this point, it was just like, hey, just go get your guy if you love him. And I get it. If you watch Edey from his freshman year at Purdue to what he ended up as a senior, it's remarkable. Like the steps he took each year. He was much better conditioning this year. He made an impact all over the place, as everyone knows. But I like him going to Memphis. They had Steven Adams, and now you get Zach Edey in there to try to play that role. I've thought this whole time someone was going to take a swing and say, if it's going to work, it's going to be for us. So him going there, I think there's a world in which it could really be impactful. It's just how quick is it going to work out? How quick is he going to find his groove?
I'm excited to see the screening, the offensive rebounds, because that's what Steven Adams was for Memphis for a really, really long time. And so some of the tangible qualities that Zach Edey brings to the game day one are going to apply, I think. And I'm excited just to see how the rest of his game grows. People think about the 3-point shooting potentially. Who knows? We'll see. Just generally, before you head out of here, Tyler, what is the one pick that surprises you the most, or maybe one that shocked you the most throughout round 1.5 or whatever you want to call it?
You know what it was? It was Ron Holland going 5 to Detroit, and it's not.
I would have picked the same thing, honestly. I'm very, very curious how they move with him and Ausar together, right?
Yeah, and it was more of just kind of hearing the buzz throughout the whole, because Ron's one of the top recruits in the country. So it's like people hear that and be like, why is it a surprise? He just didn't have the greatest year. And then the pre-draft process, just the buzz, like every team he talked to was just like, he's struggling shooting. And I'm like, okay, who likes him? Because someone has to be lying here. And then you just kept hearing people say, it could be falling a little bit. And, Detroit, new GM, going in a new direction, going to have, a lot of new moving parts. I was just kind of like, okay, maybe not. And then when it's Holland, I was like, oh my goodness, he has the potential to be one of the top players from this class. And they hired a fantastic shooting coach, one of the best in the industry. So if you can fix that shot, Ron Holland's going to be a heck of a piece. But I think that was the one that I was like, okay, like felt like a cup of coffee or an espresso, right? When they took him, I was like, all right, we're alive now. Here we go. So going to be really interesting with him and Ausar. But if both of those people can figure out their shots, my goodness, that team's going to be fun.
For sure. And you've been a fantastic analyst throughout these NBA prospect draft process. A lot of you guys over at No Ceilings have had a lot of hours. A lot of us see these lives all the time, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. You guys have been hustling. So congrats to you. You guys have been slowly and surely making your way up in these NBA draft media rankings, whatever you want to call them. And you guys are doing great. Love it.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me on, and I'm hoping the Raptors keep making some good picks. So love it.
All right, that was Tyler Rucker from No Ceilings breaking down the Raptors pick at 9.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. He's him and everybody at No Ceilings does a really, really great job of breaking down a lot of these prospects, putting in much more work than me and you do, bro.
Yeah. but we have opinions and takes that are valid. I mean, there's something there, I think.
You know what's funny? My first reaction when I saw that it was Jacoby Walter, I was like, oh, this is their Gary Trent Jr. replacement. That was the first initial reaction I had. I was like, this is the guy that they are looking to potentially replace those minutes. Maybe not the minutes, but just like that archetype of player, right? 3-and-D, shoot the ball.
Yeah.
You hope that the D part of it, comes along more than Gary. And he can grow out. Tyler was talking about his frame and how he could potentially grow out his body and whatnot. I think that's the first thing that caught my eye, is that this is the type of player that you would hope that Gary Trent Jr. could become, and you're now banking on Jacoby potentially becoming that for you. I don't know if that makes sense, though. How do you feel about it?
I'm okay with it. I mean, like it was a little bit of a want, but I mean, it's just because like we have our personal feelings about who we want the Raptors to draft, but we're all basing it off of like similar highlights that we're all watching. The Raptors are the team that's actually with these guys, and they can, gauge how interested are they in being a Toronto Raptor versus another team. And so they went with Jacoby. It's not a bad pick by any means. The point of attack defense, to your point about Gary Trent Jr., they've tried that. They've trialed it. It hasn't had the great results all the time. And so I think they're looking for something different. And, Jacoby, wingspan's there. He's 6'4", 6'5", tenacious defender. He wants to play defense. Like he really wants to. Mentioned it before with Tyler. That Baylor system, you have to play defense. They only bring in guys that fit their mold, and I think he's going to fit nicely in that sense for the Toronto Raptors. How soon? It's hard to say, but like the shooting is definitely there. And to the point that Tyler made about Keontae George, I think there is something there about being in a Baylor system where shots are just harder to come by, and like the flow of the offense isn't as good. Similar to Grady Dick as well. when Grady was actually with NBA players, now his shot, and I guess in the second half of the season, it really started to pop off. And now you're seeing how lethal he can be. Like he's coming off of, double staggers, and he's coming off middle pin downs, and getting the ball at the top of the key and hitting threes. Like these are impressive shots, right? And these are hard shots. And so, give him some training with the Raptors coaching staff. I think there's definitely a player there that could, I mean, what's he going to be like? Definitely off the bench for sure. And then they got to decide what they want to do with their starting lineup going forward. They still need a point of attack defender because I don't think they want it to be Emmanuel quickly. So that's why we saw Ochai Agbaji trying it out.
No, I agree with you. And the fact that they have these wings that they're trying out, towards the end of the season, it was Jordan Nwora, Ochai Agbaji, who they're likely going to keep and move forward with next season. And Grady Dick obviously getting his opportunities. They're looking at these wing type players that can make decisions with the ball, shoot the ball, potentially defend, and put all of this around Scotty Barnes. Hopefully you have enough to be able to compete moving forward. I think there's two glaring areas where I think the Raptors need to address in the offseason. It's a backup big man of some sorts.
Yeah.
A young backup big man, preferably, because Jakob Poeltl is, getting up there in age. Kelly Olynyk is in his 30s. You need to find a young guy that you can kind of build around with this group. And then I would like to get a sort of wing defender. We just saw OG Anunoby signed for 4 years, millions and millions of dollars.
Yes.
Yeah, billions of dollars. And shout out to him for doing that. Congratulations, OG.
Oh, they turned that knife and he
did. He did.
Very good. Very good.
But the Raptors need to find a way to find that skill set in a player, and that's going to be hard, man. It's going to be their next big challenge is finding how to replace
OG Anunoby. That is going to be the key, and it's not going to be easy.
Put it in your AI system. Put it in Chat GPT. Figure it out.
Help us out. Can you find a way? Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot of ways they can go about it with this 31st pick. You could say best player available, however they deem that is, but I think some more center depth would be great. I mean, Christian Koloko, I saw him a few weeks ago. He was back on the court. That's terrific, and maybe that goes somewhere. Who knows? But the other player obviously didn't work out. I think we know who we're talking about, and so they need another player that's going to evolve with the rest of their core. And Kelly and Jakob, they don't really fit the timeline exactly. And so they definitely need more depth there. And I think that's probably a way they want to go. I mean, just looking at these NBA finals and the NBA playoffs, like having a big who can hit some shots, it's really important. It really changes the court mapping, all the angles, everything opens up for an offense. And if you're going to have Scotty Barnes as a lead ball handler, now we're kind of getting into like a different area, but I'm going to go there anyways. Is he going to be your ball handler? How is his jump shot going to evolve? You have RJ, you have Emmanuel quickly. Obviously, there's some shooting there too, but you're not like, there's Grady Dick as well, but you're not like going to be that scared of those jump shooters, right? And you were scared of some of those shooters on Boston. And to your point, I think it would be nice to have another wing player that's going to be a reliable catch and shoot player, along with some upside as a driver with kickouts and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say uncertain with a lot of the things that, are in the future of the Toronto Raptors. I think uncertain is this NBA draft. I think there's the road has not been paved for the Raptors in terms of what the future holds. Yes, they've extended Scotty Barnes. They likely will extend Emmanuel quickly. RJ Barrett is a part of their future, at least for the next couple of years.
Sure.
Building out this roster is still extremely fluid. And how they're going to do that, how they approach that, will likely change as they see these guys grow and develop, as they see Scotty develop, Jacoby develop, Grady, whatnot, how they isolate and then find those skills that they're looking for around those guys. It's a moving target, you're really hitting a moving target when it comes to developing and starting from the bottom. And I'm just curious to see what the Raptors do, but they've done the hardest part so far tonight in selecting a player, Jacoby Walter, now a Toronto Raptor with the 19th pick.
And what we're talking about, I see the upside for him to be one of these kinds of players that we're hoping he could be, the Derek Whites, the Drew Holidays, maybe not that level, but he can have like a similar skill set where he has the jump shot, he can drive, he can work and pick and roll, he's got the pull up. I see that. I can see the vision for it. Obviously, he's only 20 years old. He's turning 20 in September 4th. And so there's a long ways to go, but 4 or 5 years down the road, I mean, there's a possibility there. And we're projecting a little bit, but hey, I mean, that's what we're doing here. So,
yeah, I mean, we can all only guess at this point, folks. Summer League is going to start in a couple weeks. We'll get a better sample of what Jacoby looks like, what the Raptors look like. Jacoby will speak to the media as well. So we'll see how that looks and how that sounds and how excited he is to be in Toronto. That should be fun. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate you guys as always. Shout out to Sportsnet for letting us do this. And shout out to Tyler Rucker for joining us.
Indeed.
Very, very cool guest.
No ceilings NBA. Yep.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with the Raptors for the rest of the offseason.
Bye-bye.